Hello, welcome to the Hockey Show. My name is Roy Bellamy. David Drork is to my left. He writes for the Hockey News, and yes, he does. The regular season is getting started tonight. Overseas.
Yes.
We're here.
We
made it.
We made it, man. Thank God.
Yes. It's been a long 2 months, even though it's the shortest off season in professional sports here in North America, aside from soccer, I guess, right?
Well, pretty short for us, too.
Yeah.
It was like nonstop Stanley Cup stuff, so certainly not complaining, but hockey action is back. Like, we're going to start watching highlights every day. Fantasy hockey is alive and well. Like, I had my fantasy draft last night. Like, I'm pumped, man. Like, let's go.
Yeah, I'm retired from fantasy sports, so I'm done with that. We're going to get to Jonny Lazarus of Daily Face-Off and Morning Cup of Coffee in a second, but we are going to talk about what's going on this week, and this week has been a bit feisty. There's been some fireworks and a major injury that we thought was going to be a lot more major, but is actually not as major as we thought, because Patrick Laine is only going to be out 2 to 3 months, as opposed to him getting surgery on that knee hit that he had with Cedric Paré against the Tampa Bay, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and yes, it was bad. His leg was at an angle, and he went down.
It's a little easier to see now, knowing that he isn't. It's not as like, oh God, just watching that and the way his leg bent. Like, I was really worried about Patrick Laine. The poor guy, just like can't stay on the ice. You know, finally like fresh start in Montreal, and then that happens. Like, dude, the poor guy just can't catch a break.
Yes, and Arber Xhekaj, who's had an interesting week, came to his defense and. He basically jumped Paré, and, I mean, what are you going to do? You got to defend your guy. He got hurt there, even though, you got to defend your guy because that hit wasn't exactly, legal, but there was no call on the ice in that situation.
Those are tough, especially like that specific situation where the players were coming together at an angle. But, yeah, I mean, you can't stick your leg out like that. Like, there's a reason that you don't coast. There's a reason that you keep your feet moving, and especially moving through that area of the ice where you're around a blue line in the neutral zone, it's dangerous, and these guys know that. So I'm just glad that Laine's okay, and I'm glad that that Paré didn't get pummeled too badly there by Xhekaj, because as we're learning, he's a dangerous fellow. He's got a big chip on his shoulder.
The league gave him a $3,400 fine
for us.
That
would suck.
That's a lot. I don't even want to think about that. Yeah. That's not even a down payment on a car nowadays, man. I mean, that's bad. Mm. So, like we said, 2 to 3 months out for Laine. No surgery needed. So that's
big.
The best case scenario in that situation, actually, as opposed to the worst case scenario where he's done for the year. But 2 to 3 months will have him back later in the season, depending on how Montreal does this season, which, meh.
Well, I mean, look, they've been building towards something for the last couple of years. I love Marty St. Louis. I think he's done a great job as their head coach. But, I mean, when you've got Gold Caulfield and Nick Suzuki on your top line, I don't know. It could be something in Montreal. Sam Montembeault, who we know well from his time here in South Florida, he's coming into his own as their goaltender. I think he got an extension in the offseason as well. And then also another former Panther connection that's been doing well for Montreal is Mike Matheson. Yeah. I think he's like their top pairing defenseman right now, former first-round pick of the Florida Panthers. So Montreal slowly but surely sneaking up.
Sleeper pick?
I'm not quite ready to go there. But
we're not Buffalo, not Detroit.
I don't know. Like, could I see Montreal hanging out in the wild card race if things go right? Patrick Laine injury kind of puts a big damper on that.
Yeah, it's a big dent.
They're not a pushover, I don't think, anymore. I think Montreal is really kind of stepping out of the basement of the Atlantic Division and could maybe stick around in that wild card race. I'd like to see it.
That was on Sunday. On Tuesday, the Canadiens played the Senators, and there was fireworks in that game, and Arber Xhekaj was also a part of those fisticuffs as well. Let's start with the Ridley Gregg injury, because, by the way, he scored in that game, by the way, so that's even funnier. But he hit Kirby Dach up high, and those two ended up fighting later in the game, but it wasn't before Ridley Gregg ended up getting a receipt for that, and that was the receipt that Gregg ended up getting. He got hit hard in that one, but before that was the hit up high by Gregg. We're seeing a lot of hits in the preseason right now. Some of them clean, Some of them not as clean as we saw on Sunday.
Which will happen when you get players of varying levels playing in the same ice together. You're not going to get the same, kind of high end that you would expect, and that's why these things kind of happen during the preseason a lot more than you would see them during the regular season.
Yeah. The second thing that happened was Arber Xhekaj's high hit on Tim Stützle, and that was bad.
Yeah.
That was
came
really
out of nowhere. I mean, it was a feisty game, but I mean, that was. I think we're seeing it now. Watch, he just comes across the ice, boom, chicken wing, and yes, it was Stützle's own stick that hit him. But the reason his own stick hit him was because he got chicken winged.
Yeah.
And look, I'm all for retribution, and it's part of hockey. But there's a line that you don't cross, right? Like, you got to make sure the guy's looking you in the face before you do something like that, especially a guy who wasn't in. Not only was Stützle not involved, but he's like, him and Brady, like that's their future.
Yeah.
You don't bleep with that. Like, you want to hit somebody, go hit one of the tough guys. Go hit, a middle six guy, somebody that's. You don't go after the guys wearing the crowns.
Mm-hmm.
So. Not a fan of that, Mr. Xhekaj.
Stützle's stick did hit him. That was the majority of the damage that was caused was based on the stick. But you're right about the hit. And Xhekaj got a major and a game misconduct on that play. The Senators went 4 for 9 on their power play in that game. And karma, obviously. Xhekaj did not face any supplemental discipline, but he's got eyes on him right now. So the people are looking at him right now.
He's wasting
time.
Like right now, he's earning a reputation, and he's doing it in the preseason, that, which means nothing. Like, if you're gonna go out and do this kind of shit, like, I don't think you should do it. I'm kind of following my own words here, but like, if you're gonna do it when it counts. Get your money's worth.
Yeah, like Matt Rempe.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it in the playoffs.
Do it. Yeah, that's the thing. But I don't like what I saw, and now everybody's going to be watching this kid this season.
Yeah. On Wednesday with the Panthers, they played the Lightning, and there was a sizable mismatch in this hit situation. But
in that game, keep in mind too that Tampa dressed almost like most of their NHL roster. It was a home game for them. And Florida was a road game, obviously, if Tampa was home.
Yeah.
But Florida brought up, I think, only 5 or 6 NHL regulars on this roster. So already there was a pretty big disparity in the talent level on the ice. And Florida was skating with Tampa. I think Florida actually won that game in overtime, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they did.
So already maybe Tampa was a little bit annoyed with that they were not playing well against this team of, inferior players in terms of NHL, AHL type talent level. And then that happened.
Yes. Take a look at Josh Davies. He's 5'9", 179 pounds. Okay. And Victor Hedman, who was named Lightning captain this year because Steven Stamkos is in Nashville, is 6'7".
It's a large man.
244 pounds. You can play the video. Davies hit Hedman, and Hedman fell like a tree. I mean, he just went down and fell like a tree.
It was a good, clean hit.
Yeah, it was a clean hit. Very much a clean hit. But Nikita Kucherov had to defend his captain, dropped his gloves.
See, there's the hit. Nice and clean. The puck was right there. Squared him up. Yep. And then Kucherov just loses it. Play's still going, I don't care. I'm going to horse collar you and take you to the... And then does nothing, by the way.
Yeah. But he horse collared him.
Dude, it's a clean hit. It's a clean hit. And we've gotten to this way of the NHL these days where players reacting to clean hits. Like, no, that's part of the game. If we get to a point now where you can't hit a guy clean and you've got to worry about the other team coming after you, like if this was 10, 15 years ago, big hits were just big hits.
Yeah.
You just moved on.
Yeah, that's not line brawls. It's not guys like Nikita Kucherov grabbing you from behind.
Man. Like back in the day, Scott Stevens could take a guy's head off and it's like, okay, next shift.
Yeah.
I mean, remember the final against Anaheim?
Yes. Paul Kariya got knocked down on the ice.
Off the floor, onto the board.
On the board.
Come on, man.
You know where this all started? This all started? Sidney Crosby.
It all goes back to Crosby with
yes,
you.
Yes, it all goes back to Crosby. Like, everything in this nation goes back to Florida and Miami. Everything bad in this league.
You can't even say it with a straight face. Can he?
I can't.
You can't disparage the king.
Oh, yes, I can. He's not the king. He's never been the king. That's Wayne Gretzky.
Oh.
No, he's not even the king in his own town. That's Mario Lemieux. I don't give a damn. And current my ass. I don't give a damn. They're not making the playoffs this season, so how does that?
There's the bold prediction. Penguins are out.
Yeah.
Mike Sullivan's out of a job.
Yeah.
Keep going. Just keep going.
Yeah, they're going to move the team.
They're moving the team.
They're moving the team to Quebec. Yes, that's what's going to happen.
Oh my God.
3 minutes. Yeah, I can't see you with a street face.
This is how we make Roy smile. We talk about the end of Sidney Crosby and the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is Roy's Christmas morning.
Yes. Merry Christmas to me. About 3 minutes later, Connor Geekie came off the bench on a legal line change and made a beeline to Davies and jumped him. All right?
Over a clean hit.
Over a clean hit. And that's a no-no.
Over a clean hit.
That is a no-no in the NHL rule book. You cannot.
And look at Davies, though. He takes a cross check to the head. He's like, all right, I'm going to keep skating. And then finally, Geekie's like, no, we're going to do this. And Davies is like, what just happened?
Yeah, he doesn't know what's going on. That is a no-no in the rule book. You can't come off the bench on a legal or illegal line change and jump somebody.
And look how excited they guys.
Yeah, that's
guys.
bad.
It's the preseason and it's ice hockey.
So Geekie had 2 minutes for cross-checking, 2 minutes for instigating, 5 minutes for fighting, and a 10-minute misconduct. For some strange reason, they gave 5 minutes to Davies for fighting. He didn't fight.
No, they still ended up with 4 minutes. I think that, I'm pretty sure it was your boy T.J. Luxmore was refereeing that game, actually. But I think they got it right. I think, the Panthers had a 4-minute power play. Geekie was out of the game. And Davies was fine. It wasn't like he got hurt or anything as a result of it. So I think that also, wipe away your tears from I saw you're laughing pretty good there.
Yes, I'm still crying about it. I'm sorry. Yeah. I apologize. 19 minutes of penalties for Geekie. Off the ice, he was suspended for tonight's game against Carolina.
What are we doing? We're suspending guys for preseason games?
I'm
so sorry that you're suspended for a preseason
But
game.
he had to be suspended.
No, I'm saying suspend him for the opening night. Make it hurt. $3,400 in a preseason suspension isn't going to hurt somebody in the NHL the way it's going to hurt me or you.
But here's the thing, though. Stars of the game, obviously, Sanders Billman got the first star because he scored in overtime. That's all well and good. Second star was Nikita Kucherov, who scored a goal. Third star was Geekie. Why?
Because the PR staff listened to the writers in Tampa. I think that the Tampa writers decided and we've done this before, where we decided we're all going to put a guy as the third star because we think this guy deserves it. Maybe not everyone else does. And whoever is in charge of the 3 stars decided to go with it because we've tried to do that before and gotten vetoed in the Panthers press box. There's been once or twice where we've tried to sneak somebody in the third star and we've gotten vetoed from that. So that when I saw that, I was like, okay, I get it. It's all good. But that my thought and why Connor Geekie ended up the third star of that game was it was a very home ice, home cooking.
Panthers won in overtime 2-1. They go up to Quebec City to play the Los Angeles Kings, and that will be the end of preseason. Monday is the ring ceremony, and Tuesday the banner gets raised, and they play Boston to start the regular season.
The irony of the Panthers finally playing in Quebec City months after they win the Stanley Cup, and there's as little chance as there's ever been of them moving up there. I think that is poetic justice to all the fans that kept clamoring for years and years and years. Move the Panthers to Canada.
Take that, Jack Edwards.
All right. That was fun. Coming up next, as my mic dies here. This is great. My first interview toss, and the mic just goes limp on me.
Oh, my gosh.
All right. Coming up next, Jonny Lazarus from Morning Cup of Hockey joins the Hockey Show.
All right. We are joined now by Jonny Lazarus of Morning Cup of Hockey. We are going to talk about his predictions that Daily Faceoff has made. He's also part of Daily Faceoff, has made for individual trophies for the season. But first, we are going to talk about what's going on in Boston, David, because it's a mess. It's a complete mess.
Is it? I'm sorry for smiling. I'm just, as a South Florida guy, Boston, it's, y'all had some winning. Y'all, this is okay. This is just, it's all coming around here as I knock my microphone. But I mean, look, it's crazy because they trade their goaltender. And let's bring Jonny into the show because we're already talking about it, and Johnny's here to join us. Jonny, they trade Ullmark in the offseason. So obviously they're putting all their eggs in the Swayman basket.
And keep in mind, Swayman is a restricted free
not
agent.
Signed yet.
Yeah.
So obviously negotiation tactics not great here. I don't know whether Sweeney was slipping. I don't know whether they thought it was going to be a little bit easier. But either way, it's a huge mess. And now we're just days away from the season. And Boston may be going into it after making all these great moves in the offseason to shore up their front line, bringing in, who did they bring in? Lindholm.
Fedorov.
Yeah, so they're ready to roll, and Jonas Korpisalo is their opening night starter right now.
Oh, boy. And by the way, they claimed Yuri Patera off of waivers from the Canucks. That's the other thing.
Yeah, so, Johnny, can you make some sense out of what's happening in Beantown right now?
Well, I think we're all kind of reacting to it the same way, right? It makes no sense in the way they went about things, but at the same time, with a guy like Jeremy Swayman, who seems to be a pretty open, honest, and upfront kind of character guy, it seems like the communication must have been that no matter what, he was going to be a Boston Bruin if they were willing to get rid of Linus Ullmark, right? You have to imagine there was a conversation at some point where Swayman said, I don't want to plan another sweater. We'll make this work. And I know there were comments that came out, I guess, from the Amazon show about that checklist he made and how the Bruins felt he wasn't reliable in the playoffs. I still haven't watched that show, so I haven't seen the way he felt about that yet myself. Just based on what I've heard from other people, it sounded like he was rubbed the wrong way and wanted to prove them wrong himself a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But with that, you still have to think that Jeremy Swayman will find a way to get this thing done in the next few weeks because, being a former player myself, I never played in the NHL, but there's nothing worse. And I said this on our show the other day, when I had to redshirt a year in between transferring schools, there's nothing worse than being healthy and sitting out and watching your team play. So Jeremy Swayman, whether he's playing with Boston, which I still think they'll find a way to figure that out, or he requests a trade, I do feel that he will be in net somewhere, probably in a Boston Bruin jersey within the next 2 to 3 weeks. I just have to think that way because knowing the competitive nature of him, he'll be watching one of his team's games and he'll be like, you know what, I can't do this. This is just not for me. And he'll have to find a way to make this thing work. But yeah, it's bizarre. I don't remember seeing anything like this. And, if it were me, if I were Swayman, not that I know anything about him or anything that goes through his head, I've never met him, I would be rubbed the wrong way a little bit. And maybe I'd try to find a different place and somewhere who knows what I'm worth because it seems like he knows his value.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Boston feels that way, but yeah, hopefully it works out for him.
Yeah, absolutely right. And Boston has made this a complete mess. We have a video with sound of Cam Neely. Basically, he made this sound like, you remember Terrell Owens and his agent, and she coming up to the microphone and saying, like, he has 80 million reasons to be happy. That's basically what he sounded like. Let's play the video.
Since you say you were surprised, Cam, can you share any of the specifics here, be it what his ask is in terms of dollars or term?
Well, I don't want to get into the weeds with what his ask is, but I know that I have 64 million reasons why I'd be playing right now.
Yeah. And like speed of light, there was a response from Louis Gross, Jeremy Swayman's agent. He said, normally I do not release statements or discuss negotiations through the media. However, in this case, I feel the need to defend my client. At today's press conference, and that's why I say it was the speed of light because it was like 10 minutes later, $64 million was referenced. This is the first time that number was discussed in our negotiations prior to the press conference. No offer was made reaching that level. We are extremely disappointed. This was not fair to Jeremy. We will take a few days to discuss where we go from here. Now,
Man.
That's just like you say that after Jeremy watches, the first game of the regular season, he might have a change of heart and probably accept what they offer him. But come on. Watching that presser, why would he? Obviously, like he's an RFA, so he has the Bruins have their negotiation rights. They could easily trade the negotiation rights to another team, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
that may end up happening.
Why not force the issue if you're Jeremy Swayman?
Yeah, it's tough. And this is why players have agents because, even everyone knows it's so tough to negotiate for yourself also without your feelings getting hurt. And that's why agents are involved. And listen, it sounds like when he went through arbitration not too long ago, his feelings were rubbed the wrong way as well. So maybe this relationship just has one more thing till it gets to the boiling point, and then he asks for that trade. But, it's been now, 2 to 3 days since that's even happened or even more. And we still haven't heard anything out of Jeremy Swayman. So you have to think they're still trying to make it work, or else you'd hear that he's requested a trade. So, we'll see how this thing goes, but it's definitely been great for the drama. I know it was a quiet off season that, hockey fans were begging for something to happen. And it's a shame that this is kind of going on as hockey's coming back. I wish this was kind of going on in July when there was nothing really happening. But, hopefully it gets done and we see Jeremy Swayman in net, because he's a fun talent to watch. I'll tell you that much. And, watching Boston's preseason game last night, it was a rough go. So they could use the goaltending, that's for sure.
And one thing that you kind of brought up was Swayman's appearances on the new Amazon series, which it dropped today, Friday. And it showed Swayman through last year's playoffs when we knew he was going to be RFA. And he did discuss a little bit when Boston got knocked out. He said, I had wondered to myself, is this the last time I'm going to be in a Bruins jersey? And he said, he wants to be in Boston. He wants to do everything in his power to stay there. But as you mentioned, Johnny, he did talk about also the arbitration process the summer before. And he said he wrote down some of the things that Boston said about him in a negative light, like can't trust him during the playoffs, unproven. And he's like, I was checking these things off during the season as inspiration. And while some people might point to that as a reason to maybe look at the two sides as stretching apart, that's fairly common. And I think you alluded to it before. It's why players will have their agents to go into these processes for them, because it can be a hurtful situation because it's a business, right? I don't think that necessarily is going to push him out of town per se, unless things are getting worse at this point, right?
Yeah, and those things I think at the time were true, right? Like the guys played 132 games. I think to that point of arbitration had played one postseason game. Granted, it was a game 7. He was thrown in, into the fire of a tough series after his team blew a 3-1 lead against Florida, your Florida Panthers. And, I think up until last year's playoffs, Jeremy Swayman was not talked about as a top goalie in the NHL. He was a great goalie, but until that, first round where he really took over the net from Omar, there wasn't a conversation of this is the guy, and now after his 2 rounds of the playoffs last year, we're now talking about what is potentially a top, even the USA goalie representative for the 4 nations. So recency bias definitely plays a factor in all of this. Think about how many goalies are hot one year and then have a down year the following. I mean, Connor Hellebuck too is a guy that we talk about.
Nice.
He had a phenomenal regular season and then, pooped his pants basically in the playoffs. Not that his team was much of a help in front of him, but the goalie position is such an interesting one, such a unique one, because it's so hard to find a guy who year in, year out is the guy. And, we're talking about it going into this year too, with a guy like Andrei Vasilevsky, who has basically been, the number 1 unanimous goalie in the past, 5 to 7 years. And up until maybe a year or 2 ago, once Tampa didn't win a Stanley Cup, it's kind of shifted a bit, but he's still a guy to me who, is a number 1, number 2, number 3 goalie in the NHL.
Yeah. You mentioned the recent Vezina Trophy winning goaltenders. Let's segue from that, because I'm a professional. That's how we do that around here. To your predictions on the individual trophies. Let's start with the Jack Adams Award for Coach of the Year.
Oh, should I just Craig Berube is my pick.
That's it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think with the Leafs, it's funny how these things work. And oftentimes you see a coach come into a team that's been kind of knocking on the door, but hasn't been able to figure it out. And then all of a sudden they win a Stanley Cup. I mean, a guy that I think about is Mike Sullivan with Pittsburgh. He comes in, I think, midway through the season in 2016 and wins back-to-back Stanley Cups. Craig Berube is a guy who, won a Stanley Cup in the last 5 years. And Toronto has just, for whatever reason, not been able to, get to that next level. And Berube seems to be a guy who can bring out the best in talented players like the ones on the Maple Leafs roster. And, listen, Toronto's always been a great regular season team, but they're actually my pick to win the President's Trophy this year. And I think Berube is the one to help get them there.
How about the Art Ross Trophy for leading point scorer?
I mean, this one's kind of basic, but how could you bet against Connor McDavid? 2 years ago, 64 goals, like 160 something points, I think, or 153 points, I believe actually was the exact number. Last year, 100 assists, 132 points. I mean, this guy, if anything, it's funny. I asked Tyler Yaremchuk, who covers the Oilers for Oilers Nation yesterday, what can we expect from Connor McDavid this year after those previous 2 years and after losing in the Game 7 in the Stanley Cup final? Like, this guy is not going to slow down at all. If anything, he might speed up. And Tyler said he could score 50 goals and have 100 assists again. Like, Connor McDavid is basically inevitable, and I'm not going to pick anyone else unless I have to.
So your Rocket Richard trophy kind of jumped off the page at me a little bit. And I like it. I like where you're going with this. I like the bold take. Maybe not so much as a Panthers guy, but Jake Gensel winning the Rocket Richard, two-part question. Why and how many goals do you have him scoring?
So I have him scoring probably like the 55 to 57 range. I don't think we're going to see a 60-goal scorer again this year. I know scoring is kind of up in the NHL, but I just don't see it happening. For whatever reason, I don't really have a specific. But the simple answer for this is he's playing with Nikita Kucherov on the number one power play in the NHL last year. Kucherov led the league in points, 144 last year. He's an incredible playmaker. Jake Gensel can score goals in every single way, whether it's backdoor deflections, around the net, a shot, a one-timer. I mean, Gensel is, one of the most elite goal scorers in the entire NHL. He isn't, the guy that went to Tampa and signed for 8 years for no reason, right? That's why they didn't keep Stamkos. I think Stamkos will thrive as well in Nashville, but Jake Gensel is a guy that he's a threat everywhere on the ice, and playing with a player as high of a caliber as Nikita Kucherov, I just think it's going to benefit him so much.
Now, Calder Trophy, again, I like where you're going with your Calder Trophy pick just because I think Cutter Gauthier is going to be big in Anaheim. I think that whole Anaheim, San Jose region is going to be pretty ripe with young talent. I don't know if he's going to stay on Anaheim's top line. I think they're going to want to put him with Leo Carlsson just for that.
That's where he is right now. Yeah, that's where he is.
So that would make sense. But why do you think he's going to be better than, say, a Macklin Celebrini?
Well, I think it's just the goal scoring factor. Macklin Celebrini will probably finish with more points this year, but Cutter Gauthier, I've watched this kid play now for 2 years covering Hockey East, and scoring 38 goals in 41 NCAA games last year is no fluke. Nope. Cutter Gauthier's shot is his biggest threat. I think he'll score 30 goals this year, especially if he's playing on a line with Leo Carlsson and getting first power play time. Gauthier, I don't want to say similar to Gensel, but he can score from anywhere on the ice. Different kinds of players. Gauthier, bigger body, strong, maybe even a better skater, probably a better skater than Gensel. But that Anaheim team has a lot of young talent, and I think Gauthier has more support around him than Celebrini does, and that's why I think Gauthier will be the Rookie of the Year. Again, I'd say Celebrini can touch 60 points. Gauthier, I'd maybe say more 52 to 57, but I think Gauthier scores 30 goals, and assists will come as well. But that kid can just find the back of the net from anywhere, and he'll be on the first power play unit, and the opportunity will be there for him.
The Selke Trophy for Best Defensive Forward. Tell me why it's not going to be Alexander Barkov.
Well, I think he's the easy choice. And again, if you can look at the names I have on this list, I try not to go with the basic answers.
No chalk.
Well, with the basic answers outside of McDavid, obviously, because you can't really bet against McDavid in the Art Ross. But I always try to be a little bit outside the box, but I have a reasoning for everything. And if there's one player in the NHL this year who has a chip on their shoulder and something to prove, it's Mitch Marner. With the narrative around him in Toronto, and again, the Craig Berube factor, him coming in probably being a little bit more defensive-minded. Marner, we know, can score the points and can produce offensively, and his defensive game is strong too. Marner is a guy who kills penalties, blocks shots, does a little bit of everything, doesn't play overly physical, but I think Berube can bring that side out of him. And, with the Selke, I just think it's someone, obviously, as you guys know, it's someone who's responsible on both ends of the ice, and Marner being a winger, it's much tougher to do as opposed to a center. And I think, Berube will just have that little bit of an impact on Marner's game, and, he'll be the guy. I think he's been a finalist, a couple of times, but hasn't won the award yet.
The Norris Trophy for Best Defenseman. Who you got?
I mean, this one's a basic one, but personal friend Cale Makar, best defenseman in the league. Multiple people have already said the best defenseman to ever play the game, which is crazy.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we're getting there. I mean, he's unbelievable. He's going to be a Norris finalist basically every year of his career. I think nobody skates like him, nobody shoots like him. He's the McDavid of the blue line. I'm not the first person to say that. Coach Carvel at UMass was the first person I ever heard say that, and I think he's gonna have to step up this year for Colorado too, because the Avalanche, to me, I actually got a lot of crap from Avalanche fans on our previews, Central Division preview this week, because I was pretty low on Colorado and I was high on them last year. The depth just isn't there offensively for me this year, so they're going to need more production from the back end from a guy like Cale Makar.
All right, David.
Well,
this is your trophy.
And you know what? I don't necessarily agree, but I do kind of agree, because for Vezina Trophy, it's hard for me to go anywhere away from Shesterkin at this point. I just feel like he's the best goalie in the league, and a head and shoulders right now. He's amazing. But that being said, you gave it to my boy, American goaltender Jake Ottinger, who I think he's going to get the volume, and he's certainly got the skill. So it could be a good race for Vezina. Why did you take Ottinger over Shesterkin?
Well, so I actually changed it. I know this is my official pick, but I submitted this like 3 days ago, and I've changed my mind since. And I want to go with Andrei Vasilevsky.
Oh,
yeah, I do.
Oh boy.
I
Which probably
really
hurts
like that though. No. I love that because
Yeah.
I love Vasilevsky. I'm a huge fan of his, and I think he's set up for a big time bounce back year. So I love that pick actually.
Yeah. So, and also my thought process is too, like Dallas is a really good team, and they just need Ottinger to be slightly above average to still find success. Where Tampa, I feel like a lot of people are down on Tampa this year. Whether that's just the narrative around getting rid of Stamkos and Sergachev too on the back end, they're going to need the goaltending a little bit more than a team like Dallas does. So Vasilevsky, I feel like will have to bail out Tampa more than Ottinger will have to bail out Dallas. And that was my thought process around that. Like Ottinger, I've just been so high on for a couple of years now, and I've wanted him to get the Vezina, obviously as an American kid myself, but Vasilevsky to me seems like he's going to have to do a little bit more for his team this year than Ottinger will for his, respectively. So I am making my official pick Vasilevsky, and I wish I was able to edit that, but
No, I like it. It kind of gives a little bit of a mystery to the whole thing.
yeah.
And now finally, your Hart Trophy pick. You've got Jack Hughes, which very interesting, obviously, because Devils, are they going to be good this year? You've talked a lot about the Maple Leafs as you think they're going to be good this year, so it's kind of a two-parter for me. Why Jack Hughes as your MVP? And are we going to see like a Devils Leafs Eastern Conference final in your eyes? Like, what's going on here?
I wouldn't love a Devils Leafs Eastern Conference final, but I would love a Devils Leafs playoff series. Obviously, I want to see my Rangers in the conference final. But Jack Hughes, I've said it before and I'll say it again, my favorite player in the NHL. His personality, the way he plays the game, everything about him, the aura, which is a word that everyone loves to use now that Jack has. Funny enough, so one thing I will shamelessly plug, I did ask every player at Player Media Tour who has the most aura in the NHL. Every single one of them said Austin Matthews. I asked Austin Matthews that same question. He said Jack Hughes. So basically outside of Austin Matthews, Jack Hughes is the next coolest guy, the swagger he plays with. And if people can remember far back enough, Jack Hughes got hurt early in the year last year, I think like early November. In the first 10 games this season, Jack Hughes was leading the NHL in points with like 20 points.
Lights out.
Like he was on fire until that injury happened. And if he's able to stay healthy this year, I don't see that production going down. He'll get 100 points this year, if not 120. I'm expecting a huge year out of Jack. And, the Devils, obviously, with that bounce back factor and under Sheldon Keefe, a new coach, they're going to be a hot team to watch, and Jack's going to carry them to where they need to go. And, I think it's his MVP year. Who do you guys have for MVP?
That's a tough one, but I feel like I got to go with McDavid just because I feel like he's going to be on a redemption tour this year after what happened in the playoffs last year.
Nathan McKinnon.
I'm a little scared.
Give it to him.
But
Back-to-back for Nate?
Yeah.
yeah, you caught me off a little bit there. I was like,
really? Okay.
A little bit. I know. I just getting back to Jack Hughes for a second. Last year he was unreal, but I always think of, and I wonder if you're going to remember this, Roy. He had maybe my favorite goal celebration of all time, where
stick.
Yeah, where he just threw a stick into the stands, like, yeah,
Whoosh!
like Thor or whatever, throwing a thunderbolt. Like I love that.
Yeah.
I would love to see a full season of a healthy Jack Hughes.
So he can lose all of his sticks. That's like $300 each.
Well,
He
sure-
finished with 99 points 2 years ago when he was healthy.
No,
he
he's like-
was 1 point away.
They're pretty stacked up front in New Jersey right now, and if
Yeah.
Jacob Markstrom becomes the guy that and I'm still like scared of his mask. His mask is like crazy. The blood splatters.
Well, it's looking scary in New Jersey, man. So like you can see them making the playoffs and making a good run there.
Yep.
Yeah. So Johnny, plug your stuff. You got Morning Cup of Coffee. You got Daily Face Off.
Yes, I work with Daily Face Off, do a morning show every Monday through Thursday called Morning Cup of Hockey, and then I do this really cool content series called Open Skate with Bleacher Report, where I do a lap around the ice with all the players and kind of ask them funny, goofy, personality questions. Those are going to be coming out in the next couple weeks.
That's cool.
I think the first one coming out is with Nathan McKinnon next week, so look out for those. But yeah, it's going to be another fun year of hockey. I'm super excited. It was great getting to hang out with you guys during the conference final last year.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can run that back this year. But thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. And whenever you need, happy to hop on.
Absolutely. That's Jonny Lazarus, everybody. Listen to all of his stuff. Watch his stuff as well. It's absolutely. I can't wait for the season to start. It starts next week. All right.
Starts tonight.
Well, technically
Tonight.
it starts tonight.
Starts in 2 hours.
It starts
Yeah.
in 2 hours
Today.
in a different country.
Let's go.
All right, let's go.
My rating.
Hey, not bad. Hey, I'll take that.
Thanks, whoever decided that.
91. Got to take that.
37. I'll switch
I'll
with
take
that
it.
one. Give me that one.
I think this is better than last year.
I'll take it.
I don't even remember what I had last year. Really? I'll take it. That's big number.
84. Yeah. Not bad. Getting higher slowly. That's a good thing.
Yes, it is.
Pretty good. 82. I'll take it. I thought I was first looking like 62. Do I even open it?
Why are you doing this to me?
Yeah.
Nice. 92. Try to get that higher this year. That's not bad. I'm happy with that. That's good. It's higher than I expected.
I don't believe him.
No, yeah, you don't believe him, huh?
No, when somebody's voice goes up like that, like, oh, that's kind of nice. Like, you know, that's like, I think
right.
Chucky thinks he should have been closer to the mid-90s.
All right, for the audio audience, we just played the ratings for NHL 25 for a majority of the Panthers here. So in order, that was Evan Rodriguez, who got an 84, Sam Reinhart, who got a 91, Arber Xhekaj, who got an 87, Sam Bennett, who got an 85, Aaron Ekblad, who got an 87, Alexander Barkov, who got 94, Anton Ludell. Oh, yeah, okay, there you go. The celebration. You had more of a celebration than Sasha did on his rating with 94.
Sasha's,
Anton Lundell with an 84, Nico Mikkola with 82, Matthew Tkachuk with 92. I could have sworn that they had Gustav Forsling in there in that video, but I didn't see him. And most likely I would be pissed off with whatever rating that they gave Gus, because he should be higher in the rating.
You're just assuming that it's a lower rating than it should be. I mean, he's rated. We got to figure out what it is.
He is rated because he's on the team. They have to rate him.
You think he's in the 90s?
Roster.
You don't think he's in the 90s?
I think they probably gave him 89 or something.
What if he's like a 91? Is that acceptable?
That's acceptable because it's above 90.
Okay.
And I'm good
so
with
that's
that.
That's the watermark is 90.
Yes.
He's got to get an A.
He's got to get an A.
Okay.
On this list, who do you think got shafted?
Who do I think got shafted on this list?
Barkey.
Sam Bennett. Yeah, of course, Rose thinks Barkey should be 100.
Oh, come on, man.
No, I think 94 is good for Barkey. But no, Sam Bennett as an 85?
Yeah, that's low.
He does everything for the Panthers.
Yeah.
He's such an important player. And I feel like his skill level should be, he's a former top 3 pick. His skill level should be pretty high in NHL, right?
It's a grit factor, right?
Well, that's it's like
the grit
Mikkola.
factor. You're not going to. Well,
Mikola's an 82, and he's
But it's a
one
different
of the,
position,
he's
though.
such a good defenseman, though, but he doesn't score. So that's why I get that rating, even though I think defensively he should be higher.
Yeah.
But how much defense are we really playing in NHL?
Yeah, well, I am. I'm like,
You're going to destroy me when we play this game.
I'm sure I am. Like,
I'm just going to be the goalie the whole time and let the computer beat you.
I mostly be a pro, so it's just me doing individual. But for me, I'm a power forward in the game. So I'm basically either rushing the net or I'm setting screens. Yeah, I would say I'm not Matthew Tkachuk in the game, but I'm setting screens.
You're like an Eric Lindros? Come on, I'm trying to get you to compare your NHL player to a real-life player, and you're not taking the bait.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like a Pete Todd Bertuzzi before he
I'm
went
thinking
crazy?
Red Wings over here.
Red Wings Todd Bertuzzi?
No.
No.
Shoot. There was a power forward on the
Bob Probert?
No. Oh no. Late 90s, early 2000s.
Keith Primo?
No, late 90s, early 2000s. I'm not Keith Primo.
And Detroit?
In Detroit.
That's pre-Zetterberg.
Johan Franzen.
That's pre-Franzen, but I like that pick.
Yeah.
I think you're just like 5 or 6 years ahead of yourself.
Yeah, so that's the power forward that I am. I'm just setting screens and getting deflections and hitting people. That's mine, and that's how I end up winning Selke trophies year after year.
So who do you think got shafted?
I mean, Nico Mikkola got 82. I mean, that's low. That is really.
I thought that's a little low for Nico.
Yeah, Evan Rodriguez, I think probably should be a couple notches higher.
His performance in the Stanley Cup Final should have gotten him like a 3 or 4 point bump.
Yeah. And I would
1
think
point
so.
for every goal you score in the Stanley Cup Final.
They do have a ratings adjuster on Madden. There needs to be a ratings adjuster on the NHL franchise. And I'm not going to assume that this game is better than last year because I have to, I'm guessing it's probably better than last year because last year was Terrible. But
The bar is low, right?
The bar is low. But I gotta assume that hopefully this game is much better as far as gameplay is concerned. But looking at these rankings, I would say it's probably a B- at this point. Just looking at the rankings that they have for these Florida Panthers players, hopefully they do better with the rest of the league. But that's just me. But yes, I am going to kill you in this NHL 25 situation when we play.
And on that note,
okay, goodbye. That's this week's hockey show. The regular season starts tonight. For the Panthers, it starts on Tuesday.
banner raising.
Banner raising, man. They're getting the rings on Monday. I can't wait to see that. But yeah, season starts tonight. Can't wait. We'll see you guys next week.